Hi, we're here at Epicor Insights 2025. We had with us today Andrew Robling. He is the Principal Product Marketing Manager here at Epicor, and we're going to talk about ERP software and what the capabilities are in a manufacturing facility. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's good to
Yeah,
be here.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I've actually worked for Epicor for 27 years, if you can believe that. Mostly doing different things, though. I actually started in professional services, so helping manufacturing companies implement software. Um, did a lot of time with automotive supply chain manufacturers, kind of what I spent a lot of my time doing. And then I was a solution engineer helping sell the software, and then moved into a product role and then product marketing role. But yeah, as a background, when I was making my way through college, I actually worked in a plastic injection molding plant, that made dashboards for Volkswagen and some other of the OEMs.
So you've kind of seen like an evolution of how processes work. Tell us
Yep.
a little bit about how things have gone from very manual processes to how these processes are now automated and streamlined.
Yeah, so Epicor actually acquired an interesting product about 2 years ago called Epicor Connected Process Control, and they have some interesting things. And just kind of tell a story. I'm sure lots of your audience can appreciate this. When I was going through college and doing my job in the plastic injection molding plant, there was very little guidance, and there might have been some kind of an instruction, that was on a piece of paper, right? That I might have glanced at occasionally to kind of remind myself of the steps that I needed to do to perform my job. But that might have been back in the office too. I might not have had that, and there's times where I kind of felt lost out in the shop floor about the next thing I needed to do. So tools like Epicor Connected Process Control, I think, are very helpful. They have this aspect of a guided visual digital operating instruction that kind of would enforce me to go through the different tasks that I needed to do to get a quality part,
Right.
produce a quality part.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
One conversation that I've had with a lot of people is the way that people learn and
Yes.
how the next generation of not just engineers, but
Yep.
of skilled tradespeople, how they learn how to do their jobs.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how you see that software kind of revolutionizing the next generation of people coming into the trades and into engineering as a career.
Yeah, and you kind of bring up a good point, right? There's this sort of skill shortage out there. It's very difficult to find people, and when you do find them, you want to keep them, right? You
Right.
want to retain them. And speaking from experience, I know there's not a worse feeling than doing a job and not really knowing what you're supposed to do, right? You kind of feel lost out there. Maybe you don't have clear instructions on what you need to do. You kind of feel bad having to go ask your supervisor again because you don't want to look stupid, right? So you try and figure things out on your own, and you screw things up, and you're not feeling comfortable in your job, and maybe then you go look elsewhere, right, and look
Right.
for another job at that point
And it takes
because
so
you're
much
not feeling so
time
good.
that you
Yeah.
could be doing other things.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, tools that help onboard employees, I think, are really really interesting ones. The Epicor Connected Process Control that I mentioned earlier, that walks you through the tasks, is kind of an interesting one. Where if I was an experienced operator, the tasks that I need to follow may be smaller, right? I can just tell them the big picture. You got to do these three things because they've got experience and they can do that job, right? Whereas a new person that comes on board, maybe I'm going to walk them through 6 or 7 tasks to get to end of job. But I don't need someone walking, holding their hand, looking over their shoulder. I can get them being productive on the shop floor a lot faster using tools like that.
Right. Talk a little bit about like the data side of things and how that automation for I guess establishing those processes, how that comes about. What sort of data is used to get to that point where we are documenting all of those processes?
Yeah, and I think that most companies have procedures and process in place today, right? There's work instructions that you might have as an example, and it's just a matter of digitizing those, right? So there's definitely tools, kind of low code, no code tools that allow you to take those work instructions you have and translate them into some kind of a guided digital operating instruction that maybe has integration into equipment that they're using on the shop floor as well, whether that's a PLC on a machine, or it's a torque tool or something like that that they need to communicate to. we can get those inputs directly from those devices as well, and track that information and ensure that everything that's being produced is happening in the, within the proper limits, right? The proper process parameters out there.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit to things like predictive maintenance and preventive maintenance,
Yep.
and trying to find out what problems might arise. Let's even like expand it to supply chain disruption. Like,
Yep.
any problem that you can get ahead of is always
Yep.
a good thing. So tell us a little bit about how ERP and other software solutions can help organizations get ahead of problems, get ahead of supply chain disruptions, get it, like, fix machinery before there's a problem.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. If you think of a ERP solution or an MES solution, really, it's kind of a data repository, right? It's capturing all the data that's happening in your business, whether that's, somebody receiving goods in the back door, or it's the information that's being captured from a machine, the downtime, the scrap values that are happening. I think there's a lot of really cool things you're going to be able to do with stuff like that, right? So imagine now that I'm on the shop floor and I'm producing parts and I'm tracking process parameters maybe at that machine. Maybe it's temperatures and pressures, and that if things are within a certain limit, somebody's established those limits, a lower upper engineering limit, that's going to be a good part. And if it's outside those limits, it's typically going to be a bad part, right? So today, the way that works is some smart person has to establish those upper and lower limits, right? Someone's manually saying, this is the lower limit, this is the upper limit. Now imagine if we're capturing all of that data, we've got all the good pieces that are being produced, we know the process parameters at the time a part was scrapped, that it can now start making those suggestions as far as, hey, your scrap percentage is 5% higher when your process parameters are within these limits, for example. And now you can start making decisions on, okay, maybe I want to tighten that up. So when that, let's say it's a temperature measuring, is outside a certain threshold, your system automatically alerts you and maybe automatically scraps that part so it doesn't make it further down the chain and people are wasting their time, producing things
Right,
that there's no value to, and you get customers that are upset with you because you sent them a bad part, for example.
Yeah, for sure. Yesterday during his keynote, Steve Murphy talked about kind of the future. And when you mentioned things like your automation kind of telling you, hey, listen, this part is not good. Like, you don't want to use that. Talk a little bit about the evolution of that. At what point do you see automation making those strategic decisions? At what point does it not just be a suggestion, but for the automation to just make that decision?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's certain decisions that can be made, right? So as an example, if the part's outside certain process parameters and maybe there's a conveyor system involved, your system tells it to open the gate, eject that part, right? That's good. Where it gets kind of tricky is how far do you want to take it, right? So if the machine is operating outside of spec and your AI agent recognizes this, right? Do you want to shut down the machine?
Yeah.
Right? People are going to be like, whoa, hold on a second. Yeah. I think that's a human decision at that point, right? So, you still want to probably alert people. I still think that there's a person decision in those kinds of things that need to be, involved in. That person needs to make a decision on some of those things. Now, opening the gate and ejecting the part, maybe we say AI, yeah, let's do that, because it's not like we're destroying the part when we do that. We're simply moving it off the line, and then a human can come and take a look at it, review it, and decide if it should continue on or not.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we talk a lot about the human in the loop. Do you feel like that will always be the case? Will we always have to have human in the loop in the AI loop?
It's a good question. I think for the foreseeable future, at least the next 5 years, let's say, I think yes, there definitely needs to be a human in the loop. But there's probably a time where AI continues to evolve and get smarter, and we can start letting it actually act on the decisions that it's, act on the data and stuff that it's done analysis on.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, agree with that.
I think those were the questions I had. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add in? Anything that I'm missing or that I should be asking you?
I mean, the one thing that maybe that would be interesting is I'm not sure how much your audience would be interested in the connected worker.
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah.
connected worker is something that I'm hearing a lot about from analysts out there, and it's something that Epicor has kind of started to invest in. So most recently, you might have saw that we acquired a company called Acadia.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Acadia is our connected worker platform. So it kind of extends things beyond the work or the shop floor, right? To beyond that. So think of things like, it might be something simple. How do I package this pallet, right? How do I package this pallet up? I want to give my worker, access to visual instructions, for example, that walk him through how to, put that pallet together as a simple example. It could be something like that. It could be something in the back office. In order to be compliant, we need to follow these certain steps from a financial standpoint, as an example, right? So it kind of, I think the connected worker concept really does extend things beyond just the worker at a machine to other activities and things that are happening all through the organization. So I think that's something that your audience should be on the lookout for as well.
Absolutely. We always love a trend. So
Yeah,
that's amazing. Well, thank you so much. I really
yeah.
appreciate you
My
taking the
pleasure.
time.
Yeah,
All
no
right.
problem. Yeah, yeah.